Marketer of the Day, episode 726. Manage emotional stress, break the cycle of failure, and banish burnout with Janice Litvin. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Marketer of the Day podcast. We are here with Janice Litvin, and she is going to help us not sweat the small stuff. She is going to help us get past those overreactions to stressful events, overwhelm, and so much more. She has a book coming out soon called Banish Burnout, Move from Stress to Success. And Janice Litvin has been working in the human resources industry for over 20 years, first as a technology recruiter. After that, she decided to go back to school to study exercise science and sports psychology, and she's now certified by the Aerobics and Fitness Association of America. Janice helps organizations strategize ways to get their employees engaged and stress-free, in addition to getting them motivated to work out and eat right. Now, she's a Zumba Fitness Instructor as well as a wellness coach with Weight Watchers, and she has gone from an overly critical complainer to a calmer, more rational person. So if any of this or all of this resonates with you, then you're going to want to sit up and pay very close attention to get some of those tips and tricks to be a better person and stop overthinking, stop stressing out. So Janice, how the heck are you these days?
Thank you. I'm great. Thank you for having me, Robert.
Glad to have you. And so I'm the kind of person where I like to sometimes listen to a podcast interview or watch a video, and then maybe in another tab have that person's website or some of the resource open. Can you plug your website for us here so that way we can do our due diligence on you while listening to you?
Oh, sure. Of course. My website is janicelitvin.com, spelled L-I-T-V, like watch TV, I-N.com. So janicelitvin.com.
All right. And then when people go to janicelitvin.com, what kind of problems will they have solved there? Or maybe what problems will they be on their way to solving? And what kind of problems do you think we'll be solving here today in our conversation?
Hopefully the answer will be the same for both questions. They will learn how to manage their stress a little bit better so that they're not letting the little things ruin their day. You know, a lot of times we're stuck in traffic. Of course, when we get back to work, we hopefully won't be stuck in traffic too much, but sometimes we're stuck in traffic or a long line at the coffee shop, or someone yells at us at work or just treats us poorly. And it's very common to overreact and just get really, really upset, especially if our feelings are hurt. And it's important to remember that we can control our feelings and our thoughts and our reactions.
Okay. And some of those things that you mentioned, I don't know if something has changed. Maybe it's older age, but I still overreact sometimes, but I used to overreact to the smallest thing. Like you said, someone cuts you off in traffic, or you think back to that one painful memory from when you were 8 years old. And then you're thinking, why am I thinking about that? And then you feel bad about feeling bad, and it's a downward spiral. And I still don't have a handle on it, but I feel like I'm a lot better, and I would like to continue getting better. So why do we overreact, and how can we get a better handle on this?
Well, you may not realize it, Robert, but you hit the nail on the head when you said I flashed back to when I was 8 years old. That's exactly where our patterns come from our childhood. You know, many of us had parents that did the best they could, but they might not have realized that being overly critical wasn't really helpful. It cut us down, and it made us feel not enough, not smart enough, not pretty enough, not clever enough, whatever it was. And so, unfortunately, all that behavior got all tangled up with love. And so as a child, you do the best you can, and you think you follow those patterns because you don't know any better. That's the love message. And you carry those into childhood. That's what I call bringing your baggage to work. And so unless you unpack that baggage and understand where those patterns of behavior came from, you're going to suffer from those patterns forever.
And is there an easy jumping off point for unpacking that baggage, a place to start? Is it talk therapy, journaling? I mean, where do we start to untangle this lifelong mess?
Everything works, and I'm glad you brought that up. In my Banish Burnout toolkit that all your listeners can have for free, and we'll tell you about it at the end or in the notes. In that toolkit, I have something called a stress audit. It's sort of like a journal. It's very important to stop, take a breath, observe our reactions, and proceed. And I borrowed that stop from John Kabat-Zinn, the father of modern day mindfulness. And the observe part is where the stress audit fits in. We take a look at a reaction. So say, for example, someone looked at you crosswise at work. And I know that's an extreme, silly example, but it brings up the point. So someone was angry at you or criticized you. You're going to have a reaction. You're normal. You're natural. We care very much about our personal relationships. It's important to look at, first of all, how did we react physically? Sometimes you don't want to get in a big fight at work, but your body will tell you when you're upset. You might get knots in the stomach, clenched jaws, headache, neck ache, heart rate increases. You might start crying or whatever it is that your reactions to being upset. So you have a physical reaction, then you might have a verbal reaction. You might go back to your desk and say, I can't believe that person did this and that. I just think that was so wrong. And here's what I wish I had said. So you have a lot of verbal things going on, what you could say, what you think you should have said, what you might have said. Then you have emotional reactions, sad, hurt, angry, frustrated, whatever. Then you have what I call the exacerbating behavior, which is how angry did you get and how long did you stay there? So in my former life of being an overreactor and complainer and negative, I would get so upset, really, really upset. And then I would stay there for 5 or 6 days and I would complain and complain to anybody that would listen. Until one day, my son, when he was 10, said to me, Mom, you know, you stay really angry for a really long time. And that was like being hit over the head with a ton of bricks. When your child observes something in your behavior, you better pay attention. And he was quite intuitive. And so that's what I call exacerbating behavior. Nowadays, it's not that I don't ever get upset, but I learn to observe my reaction and try to grab control of my feelings quicker. So I might, in the extreme case, I might stay upset for an hour. In a really good day, I might only stay upset for 5 minutes. And then the final piece is the addictive behavior, which, as you know, is a huge topic. And you all know what the addictions are. I don't want to break all those down for you now, but just to say that many of us use those addictions to stuff down feelings and to make us feel better. The problem is the dopamine or whatever the happiness chemical that you get from overeating, drinking, smoking, gambling, etc., is very fleeting. It only lasts a few minutes. And that's why we need another piece of cake or another drink or whatever it is, because we're addicted. And so we want to use the stress audit to help us not need the addictions as much.
Okay, and this is some powerful stuff that we have, like these huge recurring problems. The stress keeps coming back. Use the quick fix to maybe avoid processing it, and but then you get stuck in the cycle over and over again. And what I like about what you listed here is it reminded me almost like when you listen to one of those audios to kind of meditate and fall asleep, and it tells you, relax your ears and relax your shoulders and relax your toes, and it kind of goes through the list. And as you're explaining, like there's the emotional and there's the exacerbating and there's the physical symptoms. It's like you're putting a more detailed label on it, right? You're not just saying, oh, I'm mad or I'm enraged. It's like all these attributes, so that way, like, it goes back to, like you were saying, you observe yourself. You get a much clearer, detailed picture of what being angry for 6 days looks like, so that way you're not just attacking some vague problem.
Right. So what you're talking about, with probably without knowing it, is the two of the key parts of the brain. When we get very upset, our amygdala, the fear, the reptilian center, the fight or flight or freeze center begins to take over. When you have the observation moment and you're journaling and you're writing down how you felt and how you wish to feel, that's the prefrontal cortex, or the thinking, executive functioning part of the brain. When you practice mindfulness, or the tips in my stress audit, research shows that the prefrontal cortex actually gets bigger and the amygdala can get smaller. This also works when you practice 3 good things, thinking about gratitude, even in a face of a crisis like we're in now. If you can figure out something you're grateful for so that you can feel relief and you can feel calm, there's no need to feel sad or angry all day, every day. You can feel happy at least part of the day.
And that is one of those habits that every morning listing 3 things you're grateful for. That's something where that was a habit I wish that I stuck to better, because we all have kind of the emotions going up and down sometimes, and sometimes we're stressed out for like kind of no good reason, right? Or maybe more stressed out than we should be, or down in the dumps. And you're reminding me that if it gets really bad for me, then I'll go a few mornings in a row to write down those 3 things with gratitude. But I kind of, when I did it, I would find myself kind of struggling, and I guess maybe that's how it is at first, and sometimes maybe listing the 3 things. So do you have any tricks with that, or is it just a thing that you get better with as you go along, as far as like thinking of things to be grateful for every morning?
So first of all, let me say there's no right answer. If you can only think of one thing, fine. I mean, like every single day now, I wake up and say, thank God I'm healthy, especially now. In general, the researchers suggest that you try to think of different things every day. But if you wake up every day and say, thank God I'm healthy, that's fine. We're in a crisis. Thank God my family's healthy. I have everything I need. My husband's working, I'm working. We're not struggling financially. I thank God for that every day. So even though they're repetitive, it puts me in that positive mindset. And I know there are a lot of people suffering right now, keeping the news on all day long, frustrated by what our government isn't doing and what our doctors are and aren't doing. It's important to remember to take a break from the news, especially if it's all bad. You don't need to be exposed to bad news all day long. If you feel like you need to watch the news, watch it for 1 hour in the morning or 1 hour at night, and that's it. You don't have to be glued to the TV. I don't think it's healthy to be filling up your mind with bad news all day long. Try to remember to go outside and smell the coffee. When the sun is shining, get a breath of fresh air. You need the vitamin D, and you need the happiness chemicals you get from being outside.
I agree. There's so many good things in there that the news especially does not have to be all or nothing. If you have it on all day, you don't have to shut it off for 6 days. Just ration out that block of time, so that way you're not ignorant of what's happening, but you're also not getting all the minutia and then you're also reminding me of that kind of saying of like, if you're depressed, then there's the natural things that you want to do, right? If you're depressed, you want to close the shades and lay in bed. But if you do the opposite of what you feel like doing, go outside, get the sunlight, the fresh air, then it will help you. So sometimes we have to go against what we naturally want to do. And all this kind of has me thinking about, so you said earlier on that a lot of our baggage comes from childhood, right? Comes from our parents maybe projecting who knows what onto us. I know that my dad, he'd be kind of mean to me, and he said, well, I'm trying to toughen you up so that way you don't get bullied later in life. And then my mom was really pushy as far as the academics, and she said, well, you need to succeed in life. So it was kind of two different, ways of pressuring me. And, clearly we need to, back off and all that. But there's also the fear. I have a son coming in a few weeks. There's the fear of, with kids these days, when you hear about, participation trophies, there's the fear of going the other way, right? There's the fear of not pressuring our children enough. So is that a problem, or is there a way to figure out that moderation there?
Well, you chose an interesting word, and that was pressure. I mean, sometimes I hate to use that word, but you're right. As a parent, thank God my son is grown now and I'm not dealing with all the stress that a lot of parents are dealing with right now. But sometimes it was pressuring to get my son just to even pick up the pen and do his homework. When it comes to excelling or expectations, unfortunately, we put our own desires and expectations on our children. And I think it's important to remember that they're individuals. They have their own strengths and weaknesses. And just because they don't make all A's doesn't mean they're bad or less than or not accomplished or exceeding in sports. Maybe we want them to be the star on the basketball team. That might not be what their goals are. It's important to let a child thrive by being who they're meant to be. Yes, you want them to learn structure and you want them to grow up to be thriving adults who like other people and get along well and get a job and maybe do some sports. But it's important not to lay your trips of your expectations on them, but yet let them be who they're meant to be.
Okay, let them be who they're meant to be, so that way you're not
Yes.
just passing the same baggage down from,
Yes.
thousands of years ago. Every single generation just keeps passing the buck. Maybe it can finally stop.
Yes, right. I agree. The other thing I wanted to add to something you were saying a few moments ago, as much as I love to exercise, I was very frustrated during the first week and a half of Corona or whatever you're going to call this period of time. And I teach Zumba, and my family kept saying, why aren't you doing a Zumba class on Zoom? Get out there, do your Zoom. And I was so against it because I felt like it's not the same. You're not seeing the people. You're not really interacting. But I broke down and I started teaching my Zumba class on Fridays to my regular Zumba class free of charge. And I felt so good physically and from the endorphins being happier. I felt so much better that I realized, look what I was missing for myself and my students. So now I'm in that habit of not only teaching my Zumba class, but taking other people's class and getting out and walking or biking. It's really important to try to stay as healthy as possible and feel good physically.
You could call it a Zumba class, right?
Yeah.
But
Very good. Very good.
I do what I can, and you're so right that it's important for us to try new things or revisit old things. I know that if I go a day without taking a long walk around the neighborhood, I feel worse for I don't know.
Yes.
I don't know why. And then I pick up that habit again and I feel better. And like you said, there's and at the moment that we're recording this, there's crazy coronavirus things happening. Who knows how long it will last, but a lot of things need to be done online, and it's easy to just discount that and say, oh, well, now the Zumba class is online, I won't even bother. Why not try it? Sure, it won't be 100% like in person, but it might be a good enough approximation. It's better than nothing. And in the spirit of people trying new things to maybe break some patterns or getting some better results, what do you have for us today? What new things should we try? What website should we go to? How do we get your book? Tell us all about it.
Okay, let me get to the last question first so we don't forget. If people want to get the workbook that goes with the book, I wrote the workbook first. They can download it at the Banish Burnout toolkit.com. You will be asked for your email address. I don't send out a lot of emails, maybe once a month, maybe. I'm not one of those people that is constantly barraging your in basket. I get too many emails and I don't want to do that to anybody else. Plus, you can always unsubscribe, but we do like to track who's downloading it so that we can answer questions and keep in touch for future events. So that's the Banish Burnout Toolkit. Other new things, you bring up a good point. I noticed on Facebook that a couple of friends had posted some free resources online, free opera, free museum exhibits, like the Monterey Bay Aquarium in Monterey, California, had some free live streams, and children love it, and parents love it too. You can see the baby sharks, and then the free opera, even some free Broadway theater. So I'm sure if you Google free streaming theater, music, museums, whatever, then you can see some interesting events. The other thing I would add is, as much as I hate the idea of not being able to see my friends and get together with people, we are doing Zoom chats and Zoom dinners. It's a little weird because your computer is like a member of the family. They have their own place at the table, your laptop, so you can see the other people. And then they have their food and you have your food, but you can still socialize during this very strange time. I'd love to add one thought, and that is, it will end. It's very frustrating right now, but if you can see to the future, hopefully by June 1st, but nobody knows, we will get through this. We will come out stronger. We will be resilient, and we will be better people when it's over, because we will have learned a lot of lessons about ourselves and our life, and even protecting our environment.
Fantastic. I agree completely. It might be a little scary, but for the most part, it's an adventure of self-discovery that we are all going through, adapting in these ways, like eating Zoom and while eating dinner with other people, but also sort of not. If you got a lot out of our conversation today, the place to go is banishburnouttoolkit.com to get that excellent resource that Janice mentioned, and then janicelitvin.com to find out about ways that you can manage stress, overcome burnout, and just stop making things so hard on yourself. Be the person that you're meant to be. Unpack that baggage. It won't be an overnight process, but it's what you know that you need to do. So why not get started on it today? Because otherwise, a year from today, you'll wish that you'd started today. JaniceLitvin.com and BanishBurnoutToolkit.com. Any final parting thoughts to add here, Janice, before we wrap up, wind down here?
Just one, find me on LinkedIn, because I'm very, very active. I've been posting almost every day little short videos to help you feel better. And I respond to every single person that connects with me, and let me know where you found me, and connect with me, message me, or respond to one of my posts, and I'll be happy to respond.
Fantastic. That is Janice Litvin on LinkedIn, JaniceLitvin.com. Thanks for taking the time today.
I'm sorry, Robert. Janice, Janice.
Oh, did I misspeak? Janice. Sometimes you see a letter and the voice is something different. Janice Litvin.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me. I really love being here.
Thanks for taking the time.
My pleasure.
Please subscribe, rate, and review our show at marketeroftheday.com/iTunes, and like us on Facebook at marketeroftheday.com/Facebook.